All right guys, welcome back to Garage 11, and here we are again with the 125 small wheel. Now, we're sort of going to be at the point of no return here because today we're going to cut the engine mounts off from the 85 frame and try and see if we can position the 125 in there and tack them in place where we want them to be, and then offer the swing arm back up and see if we can get this thing sitting on its wheels again. There's still obviously a lot more to do, and it's got to come apart and go back together and apart. That's the nature of modifying stuff, is it's always you modify one thing, you've got to change 10 others after the fact. So we won't be finalizing it together as soon as we've got engine mounts in, but we will be cool to see it all together dummy fitted and make sure and confirm that our machining's right, the swing arm clearances are right, and everything works. So it's going to be pretty cool, so stick around today. We're going to get into it. We're going to start cutting, hacking, moving, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, hopefully get this engine in. We're going to cut these engine mounts off. We've got our King Chrome angle grinder. We're going to get into it and just see if this engine actually fits after all of this. Cool, all right guys, as you can see, we've cut the 4 engine mounts off. So what that's gonna do is, because the biggest thing that they were doing is they were sitting proud and the engine was sitting on top of them because they were too narrow and in the wrong spots. So this is gonna be the first time we're actually gonna see the swing arm and the engine cradled in and rested over. Hopefully it's gonna work. We know we're gonna have exhaust clearance issues through here. I'm a little nervous about the spark plug clearance on here, but if it is something, we're gonna have to work around it. It's just what it is. But before we start dressing all this back and getting pretty with it, let's see if this is actually gonna go in. So let's see if this is actually gonna fit. So it's gonna go in. Like I said, I think we've definitely got exhaust clearance issues, but I think it's actually going to work pretty good, I hope. Next thing is going to be if my sketchy machining work is actually going to be good. So let's see where we're at. Okay. Oh, look at that. So we've definitely got a clearance issue here with the exhaust manifold. You can see here. See, it's sort of fouling on that, which is there in turn pushing it up higher, which I hope is just going to be the clearance issue with that. But I still think we can maneuver it through. What we'll actually do, I think, we'll just quickly pop that spark plug cap off, the spark plug off to clearance that. Then hopefully it'll come across and then we'll be able to have a look. The spark plug's out, which lets us get it over a bit more. Close. Man, that swing arm clearance is pretty happy with that, to be honest, considering that was something we weren't too sure about. So now what I'm thinking, we're definitely going to have to, first we have to tighten all this up and then see where it's going to land. But I think now we're going to have to start cutting away at this down tube through here to clearance for the exhaust. So there's still a fair bit that has to come out of that. So what I'm thinking is before we start committing to, well, we need to do that before we commit to putting engine mounts and stuff on, because we really need to have it where we want to have it, obviously, before we put any of that stuff on. And we need to have a look at, tighten this up, then we need to have a look at alignment for the wheel to make sure the engine's sitting right. Because if the engine's sitting that way or that way, it's not sitting true with the rear wheel, we're going to have lots of issues. So we're going to have to really start cutting away at all of that next, which is going to be big. So what we've got, you can see the witness marks here where that exhaust flange has been hitting Gets pretty close to this Downtube gusset through here, so sort of got to be careful. So what I might do is actually cut that and that as a V, and then try and pull them out, see what's there. I mean, no matter what happens, we can always weld stuff back. We can always fix anything, right? So I can sort of feel up in there, it's all hollow. So there's actually nothing really going on up there, and we're going to avoid the actual front rails where they weld on there. We just need to clearance this section here, which we knew originally it was going to be a bit of an issue. So let's just see what we can do. We'll get back on the angle grinder and cut more out of this brand new 85. So we've cut, as you can see, we've cut that front area out. We've just opened it up essentially. We haven't gone all the way through because I want to see now where it lands, and hopefully we don't have to clearance too much more. But like I said, it's literally in, out, in, out, in, out until it all fits. Then we look at finalizing welding and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cutting and modifying and whatnot, but it's all fun. It's what we do. It's going to be a cool little thing. So let's offer the engine back in and the swing arm. We'll see if it sits there properly. It's close. Definitely close. Ooh. All right, that doesn't get much more exciting than that. Just clearance enough. So what we can do is we can pull that front, we can cut the front of that wire out, that drop down tube there, that'll clearance the exhaust, and we're in. But now we know that this engine is going to sit where it needs to sit. We can position it where we want it to. We can now start looking at cleaning up engine mounts, areas, and getting all that in. So what we might do is we might put the rear wheel in it, put a shock in it, and just have a look at the alignment from the front drive sprocket to the rear sprocket, see if that's all good, see where we need to be, and then tack it in. Always tack, never weld straight out of the gate, because you're always going to be cutting stuff off, repositioning, adjusting, all that sort of stuff. So we'll get a wheel in it, we'll get the shock back in it, we'll tighten that pinch bolt up, and we'll see where we're at. All right, so we've got the engine, we've got the pinch bolt for the swing arm nice and tight. There's a lot of free movement. A little bit of clearance issue in here, but I think we knew that was going to be having to adjust stuff, but that actually fits up. Pretty happy with that. So what we'll do now, we'll get the shock in place, the rear wheel on, and then that way we can look at positioning the engine, we can get the laser on, see how far off we are, because we also know we have to bring the front drive sprocket and the rear sprocket, we have to bring them into each other because they're actually offset because the cases are wider on the 125. But we'll get the little shock in, then we'll have to, from there really, we're going to have to look at starting to look at carby clearances and all that sort of stuff. So there's still a lot to do. It's not a straightforward process. I sort of want to get as much stuff on the bike as I can just to make sure when we do position the engine mounts, we've covered all bases. I don't want to really rush ahead and, you know, put something together and then all of a sudden we know we've got clearance issues or that it's in the wrong spot or for whatever reason. All right guys, so there we go. We've got the swing arm in, we've got the shock back in place, we've got the engine roughly sitting where we need it to be. So what we're going to do next episode, we're going to shape up these engine mounts, tack them in place, but we're going to then run a laser obviously from the rear sprocket to the front sprocket to see how far off we are actually. So it looks close, but I still reckon we're either going to have to machine a little bit off the front sprocket or slightly step the back sprocket out with a spacer, which shouldn't be too dramatic. A lot of these things that we're doing, or a lot of the stuff that we're making, we've really got to be careful as we're going. We've got to use basic common sense practices. We've got to look at where load is transferring, and then when it goes on its first ride, we've really got to be eagle-eyed and have a look and double check all this stuff to make sure nothing's failing or anything's wrong. So there's a lot of stuff to do with this bike, and there's a lot of, once it's in and running, isn't the end of the project. So we're just going to try and make as many good decisions as we can early on, so we can mitigate a lot of that risk with a lot of any failures or all that sort of stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been the next episode of the KTM 125 small wheel. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Leave us your thoughts, your feedbacks, whether we want to hear them or not, just leave them. If you leave bad comments, I'll call you out. That's what I like doing. But it's fun. But yeah, so that's where we're at, and that's what we're going to do. But we're getting close. Like I said, we've actually got an engine in it now, which is exciting. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next episode.